All right, 6:13 is the time. It is the biggest day on the Republican presidential primary calendar. 10 states go to the polls with more than 437 delegates up for grabs on this Super Tuesday.
Of course, Virginia is among those states voting today, so we brought in Ryan Nobles nice and early. Thanks for being with us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Now, of course, we have the situation where we've only got 2 candidates on the ballot. Voter turnout may be low. So what will the impact be for Virginia in this whole scheme of things?
I really think that Virginia probably had their biggest day regarding this primary back in December when the majority of the candidates that were up to get on the ballot for the Republican presidential primary just didn't get access. So you go from having a field where potentially all 4 Republican presidential candidates would be on the vote, and probably 2 of them, Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum, making a play for Virginia, not even on the ballot. That means Virginia's really not going to be that eventful. In fact, of all the states being voted on today, Virginia's probably the least important. It could end up being a very big win for Mitt Romney, maybe as much as 70 to 30% over Ron Paul, the only other candidate on the ballot. So the focus is definitely not going to be here in the Commonwealth, which is unfortunate because perhaps if all 4 candidates would have been on, this might have been one of the states that the nation was watching the most closely.
And Ryan, is there a scenario where Virginia may turn out to be important considering the fact that there's only 2 candidates on the ballot?
I think there was an opportunity because even though there were only 2 candidates on the ballot, you could have created somewhat of a coalition of anti-Romney votes, right? Democrats can obviously vote today in a Republican primary because it's an open primary. Gingrich and Santorum supporters could have all gone to the polls, and they still could obviously go to the polls and cast a ballot for Ron Paul in an effort to derail the Romney campaign. But we reported on this last week. Since that, there has not been at all any type of organizational movement to encourage those folks to go out and vote for Ron Paul, including Ron Paul supporters. So I just think this is going to be one of those days where it's going to be an easy victory for Romney, expected to be called pretty easily today. I think with so many states being voted on today, particularly for Santorum and Gingrich supporters, they could not waste the time on focus of trying to convince somebody to vote for someone else. It just wasn't worth their resources.
Right. So what states should we be watching today? What's going to be the big one?
I think undoubtedly the most important state tonight is Ohio. That's a state where Rick Santorum's got a shot to knock Mitt Romney off. It's a state where if Mitt Romney can hold on to it, it helps him very much with some of those blue-collar voters, conservative voters that he's had an issue with. And Ohio's going to be a big swing state come November as well. So if Romney can prove that he can hold off a Santorum challenge, hold on to the states he's expected to win here in Virginia, his home state of Massachusetts, and some others, it might not close the deal, but it sends a very strong signal that Romney's in the driver's seat the rest of the way.
And Ryan, what about the general election in Virginia? How will we stack up?
Well, there's no doubt that even though maybe we're not going to play a big role today, that this is still a majorly important state going into the fall election, and that's evidenced by the fact that the president will be here on Friday.
The 4th time.
Exactly, at the Rolls-Royce plant in Prince George County. We're going to have the DNC chairperson on today on First at 4. They are very, very concerned about Virginia. They want to make sure that voters here are still thinking about the president, even though the Republicans are going to get a lot of focus, and there'll be a lot of talk about the president from Wednesday on as a result.
All right, Ryan, thanks so much for coming in early for us.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate your perspective.
And folks, time now,